Today, we are going to talk about complaining, and we're going to complain about complaining. Well, sort of. What I'd like you to do, you don't have to do it now, but you could stop this and do this, is write down all the things you complained about last week. If you can remember, oh, it was too cold, too hot, my meal was too this or too that, or not enough of this or that, or there was too much traffic, or my boss wasn't very nice, or my wife or husband was unkind. Just think about all the things you complain about. And it's interesting. Okay, we'll just use the word interest. It'll be very interesting to see how much we complain about. Now, in the Shishastakam, Lord Chaitanya says, one aspect of humility is tolerance. So, how humble you might think, well, I'm a humble person. All right, but you have to add into the equation your tolerance level. So if we're practicing humility, we have to practice tolerance because it's really an essential aspect of it. And when you start to meditate on how much you're complaining, you start to realize, I'm not as tolerant as I may have thought I was, because I'm complaining about many, many, many things. So it's an interesting exercise. It's an interesting meditation. We should be more tolerant than a tree. Well, how am I comparing to the tree? What's my score? How often do I complain? And you will realize you complain a lot more than you think. There's a little funny YouTube video, and a guy buys a device that shocks him every time he complains. So he puts the device on, I think it goes around your neck, and he goes, oh, this doesn't feel very good. He gets a shock. Ah! It's so funny because it shows how much we complain and we don't realize it. Then he goes outside. He goes, oh, it's so cold. Shock. He's in the car. He's driving. Somebody's going slow. Hurry up. Drive faster. Shock. It's like all day he's complaining. And then he doesn't want the product anymore because it's driving him crazy. So he calls the company to return and says, I don't like your product. He gets again jolted. So that's one thought. And the second thought I wanted to share is if we feel a victim of circumstance, oh, this isn't fair, this happened. It shouldn't have happened. I'm a victim. If we feel victims, and I'm not saying I'm not trying to say that bad things don't happen to us. I'm not trying to say that unjust things don't happen. Even in spiritual organizations, because we're human, they happen. But if I go around feeling that I'm a victim rather than just dusting off the damage and moving forward, taking a road that I can go forward on, then if I just feel myself a victim, then I have nothing left to do but complain about everyone who was accomplice to my victimhood. Think about it. If I'm in victim consciousness, what's there left to do but complain about everyone who's made my life difficult, or made my service difficult, or made my consciousness upset, whatever. It's an interesting thought. If I'm in victim mood, I have nothing left to do than complain. And again, let's go back to the beginning. Tolerance is the essence of humility. Humility is the first item of knowledge. In Krishna consciousness, we need humility as the pathway to bhakti. It's how we get there. We can't get there through pride and arrogance and intolerance. So we have to meditate on these things. We have to be conscious when we're not acting in the most humble way we could possibly act, that we have control of, that we could be more tolerant and we could be more generous and kind, and we could be serving instead of demanding and so forth. The last thing I want to say is just think of your tolerance level in terms of relationships with other devotees, with spouse, and so forth, because the people we're closest to are the ones we often have the hardest time tolerating. And don't say, well, we're so close, it's hard to tolerate one another. Don't use that as an excuse. But practice tolerance with the people closest to you because they're the easiest ones to be upset with. And it's too easy to be upset. And it's so easy we can rationalize it. Like, what do you expect? We're so close. What I would say, what we expect is to do what Krishna asked us to do, to be tolerant. That's what we should expect of ourselves. Hare Krishna.